Even amongst the biggest proponents of Rolex, you often hear the conversation around, did they stop innovating? They just kind of do what works and have been doing it for so long. An idea that I can't disagree with entirely, but can't blame Rolex either, as the demand for their watches is as high as ever. But in the past decade, we saw the release of a watch from the brand that totally contradicts all these statements. The watch, the Rolex Skydweller. A watch on the surface that looks like a standard Rolex watch, but upon closer inspection, a watch that truly is the most unconventional watch that Rolex makes and the most complicated. Let's jump into the review. So first, a little bit of backstory about the Skydweller line. So this was a release and first introduced in 2012. So this was the first release since, it was 2 decades since the Yachtmaster was introduced in 1992. So Rolex doesn't produce a lot of new lines and offerings. So this is a big deal. The watch exhibits elevated complication by the use of a traditional fluted bezel and oyster case. I'll show how all that works in a moment. In fact, producing this actual watch led to the creation of 14 additional patents for Rolex and helping finalize the design. The original models released in 2012 were all gold variations and instantly became some of the most coveted Rolex models upon their release. Since the models have sustained elevated prices on the secondary market and still are in quite high demand, and also since we have seen models available now in stainless steel in 2017 that was unveiled, and one of those examples being the one that I have here in my possession today, with this model coming with a stainless steel case with a white gold bezel. So really cool accents here. And just to start us off, a big thank you to Bob's Watches for sending me this watch. They're a partner of the channel. I just purchased a watch from them, the 16570 Explorer 2. I am in love with it, had an amazing experience. But Bob's has a world-class facility in Newport Beach, California. I was just there. And if you haven't seen my video sitting down with Paul Altieri, the CEO of Bob's Watches, we were looking at some crazy Rolex watches. I'll link to that down below. I mean, we're talking like $1 million on the table. We're looking at like 3 watches. But if you guys want to use the link as well, I have a link to Bob's website. If you want to get an amazing authentic watch, there's no better place. And by purchasing anything using that link, you can help support us in what we're doing here. So this particular Skydweller reference 326934. Case size of 42 millimeters, case thickness of 14 millimeters, lug to lug we're looking at 50 millimeters here, lug width of 22 millimeters, water resistance of 100 meters, movement is an automatic Rolex 9001, sapphire crystal, and retail price around $14,400, but you will find them fluctuating quite a bit on the open market given their just limited availability. So before we look at the wearability and functions of this watch, I think it is important to highlight the aspects of the dial. This reference, the 326934, comes with a white dial, and this really is a true white here, nothing off-white about it, which matches the steel and white gold accents incredibly well. At the 12, we have the Rolex crown and text, positioned right above a red arrow that helps indicate the time on the rotating 24-hour disc at the center of the dial that helps with tracking an additional time zone. At the 3, a classic date with a cyclops, then partially hollowed out hands with lume at the center of the dial. Towards the outside of the dial, we have rectangular stick markings to indicate the hours, a differentiation from the all gold variants featuring on those standard numerals or Roman numerals on those. So a quick way to kind of identify from this versus maybe the all white gold version. But one of the most important aspects of this watch is, especially one that's a little bit more hidden, is when you look at these small little apertures nestled towards the outside of the dial next to each hour marker. This helps with indicating the month on this watch. So you will look for the aperture that is filled red. So if the aperture at the 1 is red, then that means that the month is January, and that's what that is indicating throughout the rest of the watch. The 2, February, and so on. So this bezel is a turning action bezel that has 4 positions, all having different functions. So starting with the first position, so this position is reached when rotating all the way clockwise, and this will just kind of be my reference position as I'm going about this. So when pulling out the crown, when you're at this position, you can hand wind the watch at the first position, but when you pull it out all the way, nothing happens. So now for the next position, rotating counterclockwise 1 time. When pulling out the crown, this allows the wearer to adjust the date when pulling out the crown all the way. Rotating the bezel a 3rd position gives the ability to isolate the jumping hour hand. So this is to help set the local time when you pull out that crown all the way. And then when doing this, it does not stop that second hand, so you're not losing any time in setting. Very similar to anybody that has a GMT jump hour function. And then for that final position, when going all the way counterclockwise, you activate all the hands to rotate in sync. So everything's gonna activate those hour, minute hands as well as that rotating bezel as well. So to set this watch, what you would do is you actually would start with going all the way counterclockwise, set the 24-hour time using that 24-hour disc and the minutes. Once that is set, rotate it once, then you're gonna set your local hour using that jumping hour hand. Then that will be set. And then finally, to set the date and the actual month, you then just use the date, go to the next position, and just rotate as much as you possibly can. If you have to jump forward to another month, they have to just go through, just keep rotating it. The date window moves really quick on this watch. So once you do that, you have your watch all set. So this is an annual calendar, so when going from month to month, it will automatically jump. The only exception of this is for the month of February, where you'll have to adjust manually to get the proper jump to the next month. But overall, you can see that this watch is a lot of fun to set once you start getting the hang of it. And I had a comment on my Instagram, I think it put it best. This basically saying that, moving that bezel was like opening a bank vault, which is so accurate. This thing is very substantial, but really cool to see this kind of action with the bezel interacting with the movement. And that vault analogy, I think, is a nice segue to talking about the wearability of this watch. So this watch, despite its look resembling more of a Datejust or a Day-Date than maybe a true steel sports, is more of the latter than the former with how it wears. The case comes with a 42mm diameter and has a lug-to-lug of over 50mm. The Oyster bracelet comes in 904L stainless steel, has a folding Oyster lock clasp, and an Easy Link 5mm comfort extension link. And this bracelet does add kind of to that substantiality of the piece itself. And then also, just looking at this watch throughout, this is a nice mix of polishing and brushing throughout. On my 6¼ inch wrist, or 15.9 centimeters for my metric system friends, we have a watch that is taking up quite a bit of real estate here. Personally, I think it's a bit too large for me. I don't think I could really pull this off. And I do think it probably tends to wear a bit larger overall than even what the case size might indicate. So I would say this would be best suited for people with maybe a 6½ inch wrist and up. Now in regards to the movement, we have arguably Rolex's most complex with their Rolex Caliber 9001, a movement made exclusively for the Skydweller and released in 2012. The movement is built off of their 3135 base, features 40 joules, a power reserve of 72 hours, operates at 4 Hz, 28,800 vibrations per hour. The watch also utilizes a selector wheel on the outside edge of the movement to ensure the right interaction between that bezel action and the movement itself. The movement is a superlative chronometer. In other words, a movement certified to the accuracy of ±2 seconds a day. And unlike a typical chronometer, these testings are done after casing, so hence the word superlative chronometer. So overall, the Skydweller, unlike some of the other flashy pieces from Rolex, to me is a bit different, given its complexity, of course. And despite the familiarity in the case, the bracelet, bezel, and other visual attributes of the watch, it's a watch that I think has a lot of room to expand with such a limited amount of time on the market. And if in a smaller case size, I think maybe perhaps I'd consider one for myself many years down the road. So guys, what do you think of the Skydweller? To be honest, I gained quite a bit more appreciation for this watch. This is actually unique, and I think for those people that maybe say, hey, Rolex just does the same thing over and over again, I know there's a lot of same design cues with this watch, but just the overall action with the movement, I think it's really cool. It's a nice, cool, sports-oriented watch from Rolex. Really nothing more you can ask. All right guys, so leave comments down below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and also head over to Bob's Watches if you want to buy this watch or any other watch. Great way to help support us and get an amazing, authentic watch from one of the best in the industry. Finally, go to teddybaldassarre.com, get yourself a nice watch strap, and then if you want to join our watch giveaway, fill out that watch giveaway form, and then follow me on Instagram. Have some great giveaways slated up coming soon. All right guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.